Hello everyone, Mike Heck here with the Hyperactive Hypercube build vlog. Just an update. I have now received every piece of equipment that was not something I could 3D print. The carbon fiber rods came 2 days ago. I spent the last couple days going ahead and fitting the Hypercube up with everything that it needs. And what you see there in a second is the XY gantry is set up. The Z gantry is working. The thing that I'm now working on is my Bowden extruder. I didn't have all of the correct parts for a Bowden extruder, so I thought I'd improvise. While it is working somewhat, it is not giving a smooth extrusion, a smooth feed. And when it gets up to the throat of the extruder, I end up with a jam. I can't actually extrude through there. So, and you can see I've also got some wire harnessing to do. It's a little bit of a mess. I've got an Octopi as the controller. I've got the carbon nanotube or carbon fiber tubes. They're working very well. With one exception here. This is unfortunate. I just had one of my bearings pop out. Maybe two. Yeah, I'll have to take a look at that. I ended up having to reprint the bearing holders, the bearing holders that Tech2C did on my Elegoo Mars to get a better quality, a better precision to them. And up until now, they've been working just fine. I think I may have loosened them by manually moving the print head around while it was off to try to level the bed. And I believe I've got the bed leveled. I had a problem with the inductive sensor. I think I may have fried it out. The positive and negative touched, and that may have killed it. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to be mounting a mechanical switch for the time being. Boop, boop. Until I get until I get paid next Friday, so I can buy a different inductive sensor and actually put a DuPont connector on that will plug into the board, because the one that I actually now have bought says that it will work at 5 volt, whereas the other ones were working required more than 5 volts, between 6 and 35. And so I wired it directly, hardwired it to the 12 volt output of the power supply. And unfortunately, that required me to do some weird stuff with the diode in reverse and things like that. And I never got it to adequately function after I burnt out my first motherboard. So in order to avoid that, I'm going to go with the inductive sensor that can actually take the 5 volt DC as its power and only output 5 volt DC, so that it won't actually cause the same issues. I also upgraded from a 4mm sensing field to an 8mm one. What that means is that because that field is set for steel or iron, something that has a high magnetic resonance or high magnetic ability, when you got to aluminum, which is what my build plate is, it was usually 40% of that. So the 4mm sensor went down to about 1.2, 1.25 millimeters. That to me is not great, as that means that the sensor has to be like right next to the nozzle, really, really close as far as height. And while the nozzle is going, it will always have the sensor being active. So I'm trying to avoid that by going with the 8mm, which means I can have it higher and it will still sense, even though the nozzle will not be as close to the material as it normally would be. I am going to hopefully tomorrow be able to try a test print, as right now I'm printing out the end stop holder for the Z. I'll be mounting that on one of the Z poles, and then going ahead and starting a print, I believe, tomorrow. I'll likely throw some painter's tape, printer's friend painter's tape, onto the heat bed after I get it leveled, and giving it a shot with like either Benchy or something else to see if I can't get it going. One of the things I did try is that RepRap calculator that I linked in one of my previous videos, and either I've got something incorrect or I've got like a crazy smoothie board or something for my lead screw driven, because when I tried it with the 1600, it was giving me, I think, around 30 millimeters for every 10 millimeter I told it to raise or level, raise or lower. So I ended up having to go ahead and adjust that back down to a 400 millimeter steps per 400 steps per millimeter, and that actually is functioning now and only raising and lowering it the amount that I tell it. I know that there's a potential that I have a slight deviance in there, and I'm going to try to do some more math and some more work to see if I can't figure out what actually the steps or the steps per millimeter should be. The problem is that I'm having a hard time finding the data spec sheets for my original PrinterBot stepper motors. And with that not completely available, I end up having to rely on what I can find on the internet. And most of them say that the stepper motor is actually, its step angle is 1.8 degrees, plus or minus. But the problem is that that doesn't seem to be what it really is. Otherwise, it would be 1600 steps per millimeter. So, still working out a few of the kinks. The 80 millimeter step seems to be fine between the X and the Y. It's just the lead screws. Now, from Tech 2C's original design, because I've got a much larger build plate, and I've got a much larger, I think a much thicker build platform than he did, I am using two stepper motors, one on each side, so front and back, and their length, they're going through the Big Tree Tech 1.3 SKR board. The back stepper motor is plugged into the E1 output. The front stepper motor, of course, is in the Z output. And then, of course, we've got X and Y as normal. Like I said, my extruder is the thing that I'm going to be working on now, because for some reason I can't get it to extrude correctly. With that, though, I am that close. So my prediction of being able to have at least a test print off of this thing by the end of the month, end of January, beginning of February, is pretty accurate, thanks to my wife and some windfall that we've had prior to end of December. And I'm hoping that I can show you all some really cool stuff that I've printed. Once I get this thing done, I've got actually a person who's asking me to print out an STL that they're buying from Etsy, and I'm going to have them, they want to give me money and then have me go out and buy the stuff that I need to print. I'm going to have them pay me for about 4 or 5 rolls of filament, and we're going to see if we can't print the Obi-Wan Clone Wars armor for him. I also have the jetpack for the person that I would, for Carrie, who I was doing the Mandalorian helmet for. And I've also taken and created my own bucket and then taken some pieces from other people's Mandalorian helmets and put them together to create my own Mandalorian. And I believe I'm going to go with the Mandalorian Forge Master helmet. So I'm going to have the 4 spikes on my head because I'm a maker, I'm a builder, and I think that that kind of fits me. So with that, I will bid you all a good night. Hope that you're staying safe, staying healthy. And please feel free to leave comments. Please feel free to leave questions, suggestions, anything in the log below. I will tell you that honestly, I have gone through like multiple parts for different pieces to try to get it so that it will actually function the way I want it to for this hyperactive hypercube. And at the current time, I think I'm pretty happy with where we're at. But if you get questions, comments, or anything else, please let me know. Leave a message below. Hit the like. Hit the subscribe if you want to. And we will talk with you all later.